Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate broker associate Paula Nelson of Coldwell Banker Sunridge based out of Lincoln, California. Paula has been selling active adult lifestyle since 1997 when she was given the opportunity to become a sales associate for Del Webb Communities and moved to Cloverdale, California for the grand opening of Clover Springs by Del Webb. Taking on Platinum President's Club status, she then transferred to Sun City Lincoln Hills in June of 2000. In 2009, she left the new home industry and affiliated with Coldwell Banker Sunridge, using her experience with Del Webb and her legal education to continue her 55-plus specialization, but in the resale market. Prior to this time, she received her law degree from Lincoln University of Law, San Francisco, and passed the California State Bar in 1980. After 10 years of practicing law in the Bay Area, she obtained her real estate broker's license and worked for a variety of builders in the Bay Area, including Richmond American, Davidson Homes, Greystone, and Kaufman and Broad, before landing in Sonoma County, California, and then the Sacramento region working for Del Webb 55-plus communities. Paula is a member of Placer County Masters Club, Coldwell Banker International President's Elite member, and serves on the Ethics Committee of Placer County Board of Realtors. All right, with all that said, Paula, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith, for inviting me today.
Paula, if we could start for our listeners, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
I believe you would say yes, I stumbled into it. I tried not to get in my own way. Never really thought that I would end up in the real estate industry. I started out with a plan to work in the legal field. I was a legal secretary in the San Francisco Bay Area and decided to go to paralegal school just to expand my career, and a friend at the firm said she was going to enter law school for fun. So I figured it would take the same investment of time, 4 years to be a paralegal, 4 years to be an attorney. So I went ahead and took the LSAT, and my girlfriend and I commuted to San Francisco after our 9-to-5 jobs 4 nights a week. Passed the bar. He dropped out. I continued on, practiced law for about 10 years, and then broke away to raise some kids. And when I was returning to the workforce, I just could not get a position in the firm. It was in the mid-90s, and the computer industry was gearing up. Things were changing in law libraries, and I wasn't prepared. So randomly, my friend suggested I work with her employer, who was a new home builder. It was a $10 an hour fill-in position a few days a week, which I grabbed, and that led to my new home, a new home project that was offered to me in Napa within about 30 days. None of the experienced salespeople wanted the job. It was a 1-hour commute, and during that stint, I met a gentleman that eventually became VP of Sales for an active adult home builder in the Northern California area in Sacramento. They tracked me down 3 years later in 97 and asked me to move to Sacramento to sell homes for Del Webb. So it was the best thing I ever did. First time I ever had on a competitive sales pavilion floor working with up to 23 other salespeople, and it taught me great ethic and experience, world-class trainers and technology to help with lead management. So that was the beginning.
Excellent. And can you talk about what personal attributes, traits, or qualities you think have most contributed to the success that you've had in real estate?
Sure. My dad said many years ago, and it didn't really resonate with me until later, he said, be interested rather than be interesting. And I'm sure you know that, Keith. So, and just recently, along those lines, I was talking to my sales manager, and he said, people don't care. I think this is a Teddy Roosevelt quote. They said, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so, that's kind of my feeling. It kind of came naturally, but listening, acknowledging, seeking to understand why people are moving, what's their motivation, and then communicating after you know that, and keep your sense of humor the whole time.
And I guess kind of on top of that, do you think you'd give our listeners an example of when these traits have played a role in your path towards success?
I just had a client call me, and they said that they had spoke with another agent who didn't have time for them and had referred them to their team member. And the team member wouldn't allow the client to travel to the showings in her car. So I think it's, how are you going to seek to understand what anyone wants if you're not with them while you're traveling and looking at the area? I think it's also, I had another call from a client here, and they said, you know, our agent just fired themselves. They decided, they're a discount broker, they decided that they really don't want to do open houses. My plants are dying in the house. They had promised to water them. It's just caring about your client. I mean, they're looking to you, they're looking up to you to help them and trust as a partner.
Now, Paula, it seems that whenever somebody builds a successful business, that a lot of times the road to get there always isn't just a smooth path, that sometimes there's bumps in the road. Can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities or trials that you had to overcome in order to achieve your goals?
Sure. Probably the biggest one is to handle rejection. I remember when I started working, I had to take, for the builder in corporate, I had to take a caliper test. And a caliper test kind of assesses whether you have the ability to be a good salesperson. And that particular test, I remember my boss did not give me the results for 3 years, but they went ahead and hired me, and I became a top producer. But that caliper test said that I was not able to handle rejection, and that's why my boss didn't give it to me. They said, couldn't handle rejection, she doesn't have an ego, and that's what they were looking for at the time. So I didn't understand it at the time about the ego. But I think the ego fits in with the fact that we do have to handle rejection, and we have to use that rejection or ignore the rejection and just move on to the next one. I mean, rejections are good for us in our business. That means we're that much closer to the yes. So I think that was probably the hardest thing to handle. And I remember, I mean, all of us as salespeople, we've had probably a week of four different people who have canceled or decided not to purchase or purchased from another salesperson. And we just have to go on and be really strong with that next person and have as much confidence as we can and know that we can care about them and be the right fit for them and get on that critical path so that we're working with them in a meaningful way, and then let everything else just fall the way it does.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always like to say that, you know, every no is just one step closer to a yes, because, you know, it's bound to happen. You're bound to get rejected. That you're not going to bat 100%. So it's just like, okay, I'm just one step closer, so hopefully it's the next one. So.
Yeah, and that's something you just have to get used to, and it was very difficult at first. It would set me back, and it would detract from being a really good salesperson when that next person comes and is asking me for help.
And I guess, Paul, as you hit these obstacles, as you even got these rejections, what kept you going despite these obstacles? Why didn't you give up? What was your driving force?
I would say was knowing that I had control over whatever it was I needed to do. If I wanted to go on vacation, for me to sit there and be bummed was not going to get me to that goal. So if I needed to earn $5,000 that month, or if I needed to do an extra half a sale or a full sale, you know, whatever I needed to do, I had goals. I had children in college. I was hungry. So it was like, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to get a better backup person, team member, marketing, whatever it's going to take, so that I'm going to come out even better than I would have if I had gotten that sale. This is really motivating me more than setting me back.
And, Paul, I guess kind of looking forward, what's your vision for your business and your career, say, over the next 5 years?
So, let's see. The world, wow, it's changing pretty quickly. So it's just mobile technology driven. And is that going to affect us in the real estate industry? Can real estate go the way of the self-driving car? You know, maybe you're going to hop into a car, a autopilot, and tell it to take you to an open house and make appointments with homeowners for showings. And, you know, I just can't even think about that. I just really love where I am right now, and I'll just live in the moment. I'm in the active adult industry, and we really don't understand probably the next generation, the millennials. What are they going to want or need in a home? So for me, I'm just worried about my headshot in the next 5 years. What's that going to look like?
It's always important as a realtor because it seems like, and this maybe is just from my wife and I actually look at this, it's like, how come sometimes you meet a realtor from their card and then you meet them in person and it's like their picture's like 25 years old.
Yeah,
So that's interesting that you mentioned keeping your headshot, updated and
I mean,
current.
that is always the one thing that is on my to-do list that I never get done.
So I guess kind of on top of that, what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so you can have continual growth?
Well, I think we all are always trying to figure that out. So I got a great position one time on a website, and it was from LinkedIn. And the gentleman had not been associated with me in the industry for 10 years, and he found me on LinkedIn. So I'm not a real big media person. I'm more of a relationship person. I found that my clients were going to other websites to look up listings and open houses. So I completely was devastated and probably had lost clients that I didn't even know I had lost. They were going to one of my competitors' websites. So I immediately got someone to help me with the website. I want to sell. I don't want to work on the computer. So I surround myself with people that can help me become better in the industry. I did not even know about real estate trends until you called me. And I think that's how you got my name. So I should be using that as a tool to further my professional, business. So yeah, things like that. It's just every day, if we use what we're learning, then we can grow.
And Paula, I think sometimes the general public has a certain perception of real estate agents. Sometimes I don't think they really understand the value that you provide from both a buyer and a seller standpoint. What do you think the biggest misconception or myth people have about working with a real estate agent?
I believe that we kind of talk a lot about, as real estate agents, the listing or representing the buyer. But what I found that we have to instill value, and I don't think that they see the value in a real estate agent. So how do we instill value in what we provide? Because we're seeing so many discount brokerages and even places where you can just list your house for $350. There's Craigslist, there are auction.com. But where are those brokers after the transaction or even during the transaction when you're doing your disclosures? After the transaction, you want to have not just an individual that you can go to if there's a lawsuit. You want, I think, a deep pocket. You want someone that's reputable that can represent you. And, moreover, up front, when you're doing the disclosures, I've had homeowners and agents actually that have not disclosed really important things, like perhaps there was a burglary in the home, or perhaps, and the clients find out through talking to the neighbors, and then it comes up after the fact. So the disclosures are the biggest thing that the seller is going to have a problem with when they come to the end of the transaction or after the transaction. That's where the accusation of fraud and misrepresentation comes in. We've got to be there to point out things, just help them disclose. I had another client that had a big leak in the house. There was mold. There was the HEPA, correction, and that was 4 years ago. And when she went to do her disclosures, I happened to know that had happened in the home. And I asked the agent and the client, where's the disclosure on that? Well, it never really bothered me, was her response. I didn't think it was an issue. So these are things that agents can pull out. These are things that agents will represent you on the backside. They're there to protect you from liability, and I think that value is sometimes diminished.
Excellent. And let's say you get a call from a family member or a friend, and they're in another state, and they want to sell their home. Now, obviously, with your experience and with your network, you could probably look up an agent and do a referral, but from a general advice standpoint, what advice would you give them about selecting an agent that could best serve their needs?
I would say definitely a specialist. I would never represent a client in another area. And so then they go, well, what does that mean, a specialist? Because so many people say they are specialists. I like to call brokers in the areas. I like to call escrow officers because they're working with the agent, help them interview them. But yeah, that's a tough thing. Also, maybe the real estate trends list, the top real estate agents in the country. maybe listen to your program. You've got a lot of business innovators. So, I kind of have to also decide what kind of property that client, that friend, that relative has, and probably dig deep. I mean, it takes time to figure that out. But once you start digging, you're going to find the same name come up again and again.
Excellent. And obviously, you're based out of the Lincoln, California area, but what general area, from a real estate services standpoint, do you actually cover?
Well, I believe anybody looking in Northern California in the active adult type of home can call me, because I generally do Sun City, Lincoln Hills, Sun City, Roseville, Springfield, and then also El Dorado Hills and the Sacramento area. And that's really pretty much where the active adult communities are in Northern California. They're not in the Bay Area where it's real expensive, but I can help anyone and direct them to a good agent in an area that they want to look for active adult living, which is 55 or better. You need to be 55 or better.
And Paula, if somebody's looking for real estate services or an agent in those general areas, what's the best way they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
That would be great. They can contact me at my website, and that's www.paulanelson.com.
Excellent. Well, Paula, obviously we want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come here today and share all your professional real estate experience with all of our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Paula, you can go to her site, like she said. Also below this interview, we'll have a link to her site and any other contact information we have, so you can see how Paula can help you with your real estate needs. So with that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.